First contact with the impossible. The Deep Space Monitoring Station Helios hung silently in Earth's orbit, its massive array of sensors constantly scanning the cosmos for signs of intelligent life. Dr. Sarah Chen had spent 5 years at this post, watching, waiting, hoping, but nothing could have prepared her for what happened on that fateful Tuesday morning. The signal came from somewhere beyond the Kuiper Belt, a pattern so precise it could only be artificial. But it was the content of the signal that made Sarah's hands tremble as she verified the data for the 4th time. The message was being broadcast in perfect binary, and when decoded, it contained a warning. They are coming. Your physics cannot save you. Within hours, the International Space Defense Council assembled in Geneva. Representatives from every spacefaring nation gathered around holographic displays showing the signal's trajectory. Admiral Viktor Petrov, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, stood at the center of the chamber, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the projections. The signal's origin point is impossible, Sarah explained to the assembled leaders, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. It's coming from a region of space that our instruments show as completely empty. No mass, no energy signature, nothing. It's as if the sender exists in a blind spot of reality itself. The room erupted in murmurs of disbelief and concern. But before anyone could properly digest this information, every screen in the chamber suddenly flickered to life. A new signal was being received, this time accompanied by visual data. The image that appeared showed what looked like a ship, but it defied all known principles of engineering. Its hull seemed to phase in and out of existence, like a mirage in the desert. "We've detected it," announced Captain Maya Rodriguez from the Lunar Defense Station. "The object is approximately 300,000 kilometers from Earth, and it's massive. Initial readings suggest it's roughly the size of Manhattan, but our instruments can't get a stable lock on its mass or composition." Admiral Petrov leaned forward, studying the impossible vessel. "Any signs of hostile intent?" "No, sir," Maya responded. "But it's doing something strange to local spacetime. Our quantum sensors are showing. Well, sir, they're showing that the space around the ship is folding in ways that shouldn't be possible." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she analyzed the incoming data. The mathematics behind what she was seeing couldn't exist within the framework of known physics. It was as if someone had taken Einstein's equations and added a new variable that changed everything. "It's sending another message," Sarah announced, her fingers flying over her console. The new transmission appeared on the main screen, this time in clear text. "We are the archivists. Your species stands at a crossroads. In every timeline we've observed, humanity faces extinction within the next solar year. The Void Hunters approach, bringing weapons that ignore your understanding of physical laws. We offer you a choice: accept our help and survive, or face them alone and perish. You have 1 hour to decide." Admiral Petrov turned to the assembled council, his expression grave. "Ladies and gentlemen, in my 40 years of service, I've never faced a decision like this. We're being asked to trust an alien civilization we know nothing about, based on a warning about enemies we've never seen. But if they're telling the truth, the math checks out." Sarah interrupted, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. "Whatever technology they're using, it's so advanced it makes our best quantum computers look like stone tools. But here's the thing. I'm seeing patterns in their ship structure that suggest they've adapted their technology specifically to be compatible with human systems. It's as if they've deliberately designed everything to be teachable." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but not like this. Not with the sword of extinction hanging over their heads and salvation offered by beings who could ignore the laws of physics at will. "We need to decide," Sarah continued, projecting new data onto the main display. "The Void Hunters, whoever they are using technology that operates outside our understanding of reality. Our best defenses would be useless against weapons that can simply ignore the rules of spacetime. But if the archivists are willing to teach us. Admiral Petrov raised his hand, silencing the murmurs that had broken out. Dr. Chen, in your professional opinion, are they telling the truth? Admiral Petrov raised his hand, silencing the murmurs that had broken out. Dr. Chen, in your professional opinion, are they telling the truth? Sarah took a deep breath, considering the weight of her next words. Admiral, the very existence of their ship proves that our understanding of physics is incomplete. If there are hostile aliens out there with similar capabilities, we don't stand a chance alone. But more importantly, she paused, bringing up a new set of readings. I don't think they're aliens at all, at least not in the way we imagined. The quantum signature of their ship, it bears similarities to theoretical work being done at CERN. It's as if someone took our current understanding of physics and advanced it by centuries. The timer on the main display showed 45 minutes remaining. In less than an hour, humanity would have to make a decision that would alter its destiny forever. As the council debated, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about survival. It was about humanity's place in a universe that was far stranger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The price of tomorrow. The decision to accept the archivists' help was unanimous, but the consequences were far-reaching. Within hours of humanity's response, the massive alien vessel had taken up position in high Earth orbit, and the real work began. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself leading a multinational team of scientists aboard the archivist vessel, which they'd nicknamed Prometheus. The ship's interior defied conventional architecture. Corridors seemed to shift and reconstruct themselves as needed, and rooms existed in spaces that shouldn't have been possible given the external dimensions of the vessel. It's like they've weaponized paradox. Dr. Weizong, a quantum physicist from Beijing, remarked as he studied readings from their latest experiment. The archivists had provided them with access to technology that seemed to operate on principles that contradicted everything they knew about physics. Every time we think we understand how something works, we discover another layer of impossibility. The archivists themselves remained mysterious. They appeared only as shimmering fields of light that could take roughly humanoid forms when necessary for communication. Their explanations of their technology were clear, but often left the human scientists grappling with concepts that seemed more like magic than science. Your species thinks linearly, one archivist explained to Sarah during a particularly frustrating session. You see time as a river flowing in one direction. We see it as an ocean, with currents and eddies that can be navigated. The Void Hunters have learned to swim in this ocean. You must learn to do the same. Admiral Petrov, watching from the Earth Defense Command Center, grew increasingly concerned as reports came in about the approaching Void Hunter fleet. Long-range sensors, enhanced by archivist technology, showed them moving through space in ways that violated every known law of physics. They didn't so much fly as tear holes in reality itself, stepping through the gaps between moments. How much time do we really have? He asked during a secure transmission with Sarah. The original timeline of 1 solar year seemed optimistic now that they could better track the enemy's approach. Sarah's holographic image flickered as she consulted data streams that floated around her. The Void Hunters are using what the archivists call probability drives. They don't just move through space. They select the most favorable probability of already being at their destination. By our best calculations, they'll reach the solar system in 4 months. 4 months to learn how to fight an enemy that doesn't play by the rules of reality. Petrov muttered, "Can it be done?" Sarah's expression was grim but determined. "It has to be. The archivists are teaching us. But, sir, the price of this knowledge is higher than we imagined. The technology they're showing us, it doesn't just bend the rules of physics, it breaks them. And there are consequences to that. The first major breakthrough came at a terrible cost. During an attempt to replicate the archivists' probability manipulation technology, an entire research lab in Nevada simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased, as if it had never been built. Only those outside the facility remembered it or its staff of 30 researchers. The incident sparked fierce debate among Earth's leaders. Some called for an immediate halt to the research, arguing that the risks were too high. Others insisted they had no choice. Facing extinction at the hands of the Void Hunters was a certainty without the Archivist's help. "We're playing with forces we barely understand," Sarah explained to an emergency session of the Security Council. "The Archivists have spent millennia learning to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. We're trying to compress that learning curve into months. There will be costs." But progress was being made. The first successful test of a human-built probability drive took place in lunar orbit, with a small unmanned probe jumping instantaneously to Mars. The test nearly caused a riot in the scientific community, half celebrating the achievement, half terrified of its implications. As humanity raced against time, strange phenomena began to appear around Earth. People reported seeing shadows of events that hadn't happened yet, or remembering multiple versions of the same day. The barrier between possibility and reality was growing thin. "We're changing," Sarah told Admiral Petrov during a late-night briefing. "Not just our technology, but our understanding of reality itself. The Archivists aren't just teaching us how to fight. They're teaching us to see the universe as it really is. The question is, are we ready for that knowledge?" The answer came sooner than expected. 3 months into their crash course in impossible physics, the first Void Hunter scout ship appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was time to see if humanity had learned enough to survive what was coming. Deep in the Prometheus's quantum core, Sarah and her team worked frantically to complete their first defensive system based on Archivist principles. They called it the Schrödinger shield, a defense that didn't just stop attacks, but retroactively ensured they had never been fired in the first place. As the scout ship approached, Admiral Petrov gave the order to activate the shield. The entire solar system held its breath, waiting to see if humanity's desperate gamble would pay off. They were about to discover if 3 months of breaking the laws of physics had taught them enough to survive an enemy that ignored those laws entirely. Breaking the rules. The Void Hunter scout ship vanished as if it had never existed. The Schrödinger shield had worked, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of deflecting the vessel, it had altered probability itself, creating a reality where the scout had chosen a different path entirely. "We didn't just destroy it," Sarah explained to the stunned observers in the command center. "We rewrote its history. In this timeline, that ship never entered our solar system at all." The implications were staggering. Humanity now possessed the ability to not just affect the present, but to reshape the past. The celebration was short-lived, however, as the Archivists delivered troubling news. "The Void Hunters will have felt the probability shift," the shimmering figure explained. "They now know you have our technology. They will no longer send scouts. They will come in force." Admiral Petrov ordered immediate deployment of the new defense systems. Every major population center on Earth was equipped with scaled-down versions of the Schrödinger shield. The lunar bases began production of probability dry ships, despite the unsettling effects they had on local spacetime. But it was Dr. Weizhong who made the breakthrough that would change everything. He had been studying the quantum signature of the Archivist ship when he noticed something extraordinary. "The ship isn't just advanced technology," he announced during an emergency session. "It's a message in itself. The very structure of its hull is encoded with information. I believe it's showing us how to do something even the Void Hunters haven't achieved." Sarah worked with Wei to decode the message hidden in the ship's quantum structure. What they found left them both awed and terrified. The Archivists hadn't just given humanity the tools to fight back. They'd provided instructions for something far more ambitious. "They're showing us how to fold space and time completely," Sarah reported to Admiral Petrov. "Not just create probability shifts or limited time effects. This would allow us to take the entire solar system out of normal spacetime entirely." "You're talking about running away," Petrov said, his voice heavy with disapproval. "No, sir," Sarah countered. "I'm talking about choosing the battlefield. The Void Hunters are coming to our reality. What if we simply weren't here when they arrived? The debate that followed split Earth's leadership. Moving the entire solar system seemed like an impossible feat, even with the archivist's technology. The energy requirements alone were beyond calculation. But as their long-range sensors detected the approaching Void Hunter fleet, the decision was made for them. The enemy ships moved like a swarm of locusts through space, each one trailing tears in reality behind it. Conservative estimates put their numbers in the thousands. Conventional weapons would be useless against vessels that could simply choose to exist in a reality where they hadn't been hit. "We need to start the fold immediately," Sarah insisted. "The calculations are ready. The archivists have already modified their ship to act as a catalyst for the process." The preparation began at a frantic pace. Every nation on Earth contributed resources and personnel. The moon's fusion reactors were pushed to their limits, generating power for the massive probability engines being constructed in orbit. The archivists worked tirelessly, teaching humanity how to bend the very fabric of existence. But there were complications. The initial tests caused temporal earthquakes, moments where multiple timelines tried to exist simultaneously. People reported seeing loved ones who had died years ago, or experiencing days that hadn't happened yet. The barrier between what was possible and what was real grew increasingly thin. Then the Void Hunters did something unexpected. A single ship broke from their fleet, approaching under a flag of truce. Its message was simple but chilling. "Surrender the archivist vessel, and we will grant your species a quick extinction. Resist, and we will ensure humanity never existed in any timeline." Admiral Petrov's response was equally brief. "Humanity doesn't bargain with its own extinction." The enemy ship retreated, but the message had bought them precious time. Sarah and her team worked around the clock, fine-tuning the massive probability engines that would attempt something never before achieved in known space: the deliberate transportation of an entire solar system through the quantum foam of reality. "There's something else," Sarah confided to Admiral Petrov the night before the planned activation. "The archivists, they're not just teaching us this technology. They're sacrificing themselves to power it. Their ship, their very existence, will be consumed in the process of moving our solar system." "Why?" Petrov asked. "Why go to such lengths to save us?" The answer came from the archivist leader itself, its luminescent form dimmer than usual. "Because in all possible futures we've seen, humanity is the only species that consistently chooses to fight impossible odds. You don't just adapt, you transform. The universe needs that quality, especially now." As the Void Hunter fleet drew closer, humanity prepared for its greatest gamble. They would attempt to move not just a ship or a planet, but an entire solar system through the quantum fabric of space-time. Success meant survival and a chance to fight back on their own terms. Failure meant extinction, not just in this reality, but in all possible timelines. The last stand. The day humanity attempted to move the solar system began with an eerie silence. Every quantum sensor in the system was focused on the approaching Void Hunter fleet, now less than 24 hours away. The massive probability engines hung in orbit like artificial moons, their impossible geometries casting strange shadows on Earth's surface. "All stations report ready," Maya Rodriguez announced from Lunar Command. The former captain had been promoted to coordinate the global defense network, though the term defense seemed inadequate for what they were about to attempt. Sarah Chen stood in the control center aboard the archivist ship, now integrated into the heart of the probability engine network. The vessel's corridors had grown increasingly translucent as the archivists poured more of their essence into the massive machinery. "The quantum field is stable," Dr. Wei-Jong reported, his hands dancing across holographic controls. "Probability matrices are aligned. We're as ready as we'll ever be." Admiral Petrov's voice came through the command channel. "Begin the sequence. All units stand by for temporal displacement." The probability engines hummed to life, their energy signatures rippling through space-time like stones dropped in a cosmic pond. On Earth's surface, Millions watched as the sky began to shimmer with impossible colors, the visual manifestation of reality itself beginning to fold. But the Void Hunters had anticipated something like this. Their fleet suddenly accelerated, probability drives pushing them through space at impossible speeds. They would reach Earth before the fold could be completed. "They're attempting to disrupt the probability field," Sarah announced, watching the readings spike chaotically. "If they succeed, the feedback could tear the solar system apart." The archivist leader, now barely visible as more than a faint glow, spoke. "We must complete the fold. The cost is irrelevant." Sarah understood what that meant. The archivists weren't just powering the probability engines, they were becoming them, transforming their very existence into the energy needed to move an entire solar system through quantum space. "Launch the interceptors," Petrov ordered. Earth's newest ships, equipped with primitive versions of probability drive technology, moved to engage the approaching fleet. They were outnumbered 10-1, but they didn't need to win. They just needed to buy time. The battle that followed defied conventional description. Ships phased in and out of existence, weapons fire struck targets that simultaneously did and didn't exist, and entire squadrons found themselves engaging in battles that had already happened or had yet to occur. "Probability fold at 60%, Wei reported. "But the field is becoming unstable. The Void Hunters are trying to create a competing probability stream." Sarah watched in horror as reality began to fragment around them. Through the viewing screens, she could see multiple versions of Earth simultaneously existing, some intact, some burning, some already dead. The Void Hunters were trying to force their preferred timeline into existence. Then Maya's voice cut through the chaos. "Multiple temporal breaches detected. Something's coming through." On screens across the system, new signals appeared. Ships were emerging from probability space, hundreds of them. But they weren't Void Hunter vessels. They were human ships bearing markings and designs that no one recognized. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Temporal Defense Fleet," a familiar voice transmitted across all frequencies. "We represent humanity's future, or at least one possible version of it. We're here to ensure that future exists." Sarah stared at the screens in disbelief. She was looking at herself, or rather, a version of herself from a timeline where humanity had survived and mastered the archivist's technology. "The fold must be completed," her future self continued. "We'll hold off the Void Hunters, just get our past selves to safety." The battle intensified as the future fleet engaged the Void Hunters. Both sides wielded technology that ignored physics, but the human ships moved with a desperate determination that their enemies couldn't match. "Probability fold at 80%, Wei announced. "The archivist ship, it's beginning to break down at the quantum level." The archivist leader's form flickered one last time. "This was always our purpose. In every timeline where humanity survives, this moment must happen. We give our existence so that you may continue yours." Sarah felt tears in her eyes as the magnificent vessel that had changed everything began to dissolve into pure energy, its quantum structure feeding directly into the probability engines. Across the solar system, reality itself began to bend and fold. "Fold at 90%, Wei's voice shook. "But the Void Hunters are still trying to break through. The competing probability streams are creating quantum shockwaves." Through the chaos of battle, Sarah watched as her future self's fleet took devastating losses to keep the enemy at bay. They were literally sacrificing their timeline to ensure this one survived. "Probability fold at 95%, Wei called out. "Point of no return in 30 seconds. Admiral Petrov's voice was steady. "All units, prepare for temporal displacement. May God help us all." As the final countdown began, Sarah watched the battle through tears in spacetime. Humanity's future fleet was being annihilated, but they had succeeded in their mission. The Void Hunters couldn't reach the probability engines in time. Fold complete in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a silent flash that rippled through every possible timeline, the entire solar system vanished from normal spacetime, leaving behind only the dying remnants of two fleets locked in a battle that now might never happen. Beyond the stars, when reality reasserted itself, the solar system emerged into a region of space that no human telescope had ever seen. The stars formed unfamiliar patterns, and the quantum wake of their passage had left a brilliant aurora stretching across the entire system. Sarah Chen stood at the main viewport of the Emergency Command Center, converted from what remained of the archivist ship. The vessel was now little more than a hollow shell, its former occupants having sacrificed themselves to power humanity's impossible escape. Status report. Admiral Petrov's voice was hoarse from hours of coordinating the aftermath of their temporal displacement. We've survived. Maya Rodriguez reported from Lunar Command. All planets accounted for. Orbit stable. Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field are intact. We're getting scattered reports of temporal aftershocks, but they're diminishing. The cost had been enormous. The probability engines had burned themselves out completely, their impossible machinery collapsing into quantum dust. The archivist ship, once a marvel of impossible technology, was now little more than a memorial to those who had given everything to save humanity. Dr. Weizhang's voice came through the comm, excitement breaking through his exhaustion. You need to see this. The quantum residue from our transition. It's left us with something unexpected. Sarah made her way to the science lab, where Y was studying a holographic display of the solar system. The space around them had changed in more ways than just their location. The fold didn't just move us through space, Y explained. It's changed the fundamental properties of our local reality. Look at this. The display showed waves of quantum energy rippling through the solar system, but instead of dissipating, they were forming stable patterns. The very fabric of space-time around Earth had been permanently altered. We're existing in what the archivists would call a probability bubble, Sarah realized. Our own pocket of reality where we make the rules. Over the next few weeks, the implications became clear. The space around the solar system had become a quantum fortress. Any attempt to approach through normal space would have to contend with layers of probability fields that humanity now instinctively controlled. But more importantly, humanity itself was changing. Children born after the fold showed an intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics that baffled their parents. People began reporting instances of unconsciously manipulating probability on a small scale, finding lost items in places they'd already looked, avoiding accidents that should have been inevitable. We're evolving, Sarah explained to the World Council. The archivists didn't just give us their technology. They gave us the potential to become something more. Something that could stand against the Void Hunters and whatever else is out there. Admiral Petrov, now heading the newly formed Quantum Defense Initiative, had his own theory. Maybe this is why they chose us. Not just because we fight impossible odds, but because we adapt. We take the impossible and make it part of who we are. 6 months after the fold, the first human-designed quantum ships were ready for launch. They weren't copies of archivist technology. They were something new, something that merged human ingenuity with their growing understanding of probability mechanics. We're not running anymore, Sarah announced as she took command of the first vessel. The Void Hunters are still out there, threatening other species, other realities. We know how to fight them now. More importantly, we know how to teach others to fight them. The ship, named Phoenix in honor of humanity's rebirth, represented everything they had learned. Its hull was crafted from probability-stabilized matter. Its engines could fold space in ways even the archivists hadn't imagined, and its weapons could rewrite the local laws of physics. As the Phoenix prepared for its maiden voyage, Sarah found herself in what had once been the archivist's ship's control room. A faint shimmer in the air caught her attention, the last trace of the beings who had given everything to save humanity. We won't waste your sacrifice, she promised the empty air. You showed us how to break the rules. Now we'll show the universe how to write new ones. The Phoenix's launch marked the beginning of a new era. Humanity had not only survived, but had emerged stronger, ready to face whatever challenges the universe held. They carried with them the legacy of the archivists and the knowledge that reality itself was not a set of immutable laws, but a canvas waiting to be reshaped. As Sarah gave the order to initiate the first fold, she remembered the words of her future self during that final battle. In every timeline where humanity survives, this moment must happen. Now she understood. It wasn't just about survival. It was about becoming something more, something that could stand against the darkness between the stars. The Phoenix vanished into quantum space, leaving behind a reality forever changed by humanity's refusal to accept the impossible. In the vast darkness between the stars, other species would soon learn that Earth was no longer just another world to be conquered. It had become something else entirely, a beacon of possibility in a universe that had forgotten how to dream.